Self-publishing or traditional publishing? Which is right for you? There is no wrong answer. This is a common conversation. Which is better? Which brings more money? Which brings more fame? Which brings more success? Which is easier? Which costs less? Which is a more efficient, streamlined process? Self-publishing or traditional publishing? When I think the only question we should be asking is, which of them is right for you? There's no wrong answer when it comes to the method that you want to get your book published in. Self-publishing will be the perfect choice for some people, as will traditional publishing will be the perfect choice for other people. Some people will not want to touch either of them with a 10-foot pole for their own reasons. And in this video, we are going to go over those reasons. We're going to go over the one thing that you absolutely need to do if you want to be successful in either self-publishing or traditional publishing. So what is it? The one thing that you absolutely must do as an author if you want to be successful in either traditional publishing or self-publishing is build a following. Look, I get it. A lot of authors just want to right away in their little hobbit holes and don't want to have to worry about the marketing, the social media posts, building a following, constantly checking up on optimization, what's working, what's not, the trends, all of that. I get it. I used to feel that way too. The reality is, whether you want to publish traditionally or by yourself, you need to have a following on social media in order to be successful. It's just the way the publishing industry works in this day. I'm so sorry. Whether on Instagram, Book Talk, or the Wild West that is Twitter that I do not have experience with because it scares me. You need to have some kind of audience who knows your book, knows you, knows your brand, knows what you're about. And this is why. You might think with traditional publishing, wouldn't that social media type of marketing be the responsibility of the publishing house? No. For those who don't know, in cases you need an agent in order to get your book published by a traditional publishing house. You can't just ask the house directly. In order to get an agent, you need to query your book, meaning you need to describe it in a short pitch. You need to convince the agent why your book would be profitable if they were to shop it around for you. My experience, and a lot of my friends' experiences who have traditionally published, an author who queries without a social media following, without any kind of previous publications or a blog, an author who is basically a ghost, no matter how great their book might be, that agent is going to look at an author with a large social media following, perhaps with some previous publications, and see a more lucrative opportunity there. That's one reason why you should have a social media following if you're pursuing traditional publishing. Another reason is because even after you score the agent and your book goes on submission and you're being shopped around, you need to do a lot of marketing yourself too, even with the help of the traditional publishing house. It's expected of the author, and it's what it is. So if you're even thinking that you want to publish your book someday, that you want to be a successful published author, making a bag, I would suggest starting a social media following today. Start making Instagram reels, cross-post them to TikTok, YouTube Shorts. Make it easy on yourself. Start making Twitter posts, talking about your book, letting people know what genre it is, what it's about. Getting people involved in the process of you actually drafting the book and editing it. When it's not fully finished, people love to feel involved like that. Start building your following as soon as you can. Those are the benefits of a social media following for traditional publishing, but what about self-publishing? I think it should come as no surprise that self-published authors have to do, if not all, of the marketing themselves. You can buy ads on Amazon, you can hire someone to do the marketing for you if you really have a buck to spend, but you're still going to be running that show either way. Book, you're going to have to do the marketing for it, and it is a lot of work. But the most effective and beginner-friendly way to market your book, in my opinion, is just through social media. A lot of the times it will be the same methods that traditionally published authors use, just making a little reel about your book's premise, a beloved trope in the book, posting a quote, stuff like that. Simple things that will really help people understand the heart of your book and grow attached to it. Whether you self-publish or traditionally publish, social media marketing is absolutely essential, and I suggest that you start building your audience today, if you haven't already. And I wanted to cover that first because I don't feel like enough authors talk about that on either side of the publishing spectrum. Let's go on to some of the more commonly talked about pros and cons of self-publishing. So we're going to start with traditional publishing. I have dipped my toe into trying in the past. I have queried agents, nothing came of it, and I was actually happy for it years later after the frustration and the disappointment that came with rejection after rejection after rejection, because self-publishing is what works for me. And the main reason that traditional publishing would not have been my forte is because you don't have total creative control. Back up here, the process is You query an agent, accept to represent you and your book. Your book will go on submission to publishing houses where the agent basically shops it around, seeing who's interested. And the publishing house's editor, this is where you might lose some creative control if the editor makes choices that you don't really want. I'll write stories, I've heard horror stories, I've heard great stories of authors and editors clicking. It really just depends on the house and the person. And after all the details like cover and press, it's eventually released. Your agent takes a cut of your advance. Almost every case, the money is going to be better than self-publishing, I know. Traditionally, publishing costs the author nothing. In fact, if an agent or a publishing house tries to ask you to pay to submit your book to them, that's a red flag. Money should always flow towards the author. We covered that in last week's video. If you're going to traditionally publish, you need to have really thick skin, or at least like almost picture yourself surrounded in like a golden bubble of armor that no matter what anybody says about your book, it can't hurt you too deeply. Really believe in yourself and book and the love that you have for your book, because it's going to be tested during this time, trust me. You have to think of it as a profitable marketing product and make changes accordingly, when that is so not what the heart and soul of writing really is. So, not lie. Traditionally, publishing is very hard and requires a lot of emotional fortitude. I like to say that writing the book is the easy part when it comes to publishing. It's everything else that is a little bit harder. With self-publishing, in last week's video, the cost to the author can really depend on how much you want to splurge on, cover art or marketing or an editor. You can choose to do all those things yourself or not. And the drawbacks of self-publishing are, of course, the money is lesser. You're going to be putting in more work to market and build your following because it's all you. You don't have a traditional publishing house with their contacts and their money and their might to back you up. You do have total creative control to publish as fast or as slow as you want. You get to publish as many books in a year or as few in a year as you want. Decide the narrative of your book's marketing story. Drawbacks of self-publishing are sometimes it can feel like you're shouting into the void, where no one is appreciating your hard work. No one is seeing what you've done. And for this, I would say you have to have a really good support group of either other authors publishing or have published, or just know what you're going through and are going to be there for you to lean on when you want to give up. Publishing is so worth it, so worthwhile, and I highly encourage it. I encourage traditionally publishing too. It really, really depends on the kind of author you are, the kind of attachment you have to your book, whether you want total creative control or if you're willing to be a little bit flexible. You can make lots and lots of money with either one. It just takes the right skills, the right mindset, the right strategy. And oftentimes it has very little to do with how good your book actually is or how good of an author you think you are. It has to do with marketing strategy. I've seen some dog shit books traditionally published and wondered, why are so many 5-star reviews rolling in for this book? Like, did these people and I read the same thing? And also vice versa, where I have found the most god-tier self-published book that no one has heard of. It makes me sad that not more people know about it. So again, it depends on your marketing strategy, on how well you do, not necessarily on how good your book is. So any insecurity you have about that, you can just throw that out the window. Here's another tip on landing an agent. Besides having a social media following, if you have entered into a poetry contest, a short story contest, a novella, any kind of writing contest where there's something to be won, or it's been featured in a magazine or an anthology or anything like that before, something that the agent would be interested in, because it would mean you already have been proven as a good writer almost. You have notoriety, you've been featured somewhere else, so people might know your name. So if you are interested in landing an agent, I would suggest, in addition to the social media following, enter a short story or any of the things I just mentioned before in some kind of contest, or try to get them in a short story magazine or an anthology, something that you can add to buff up your credentials when you are writing that query letter, basically. With traditional publishing, you will be automatically put into most large bookstores. With self-publishing, you have to make sure that your book is being distributed through Ingram Wholesale if you want your book to appear in places like Barnes & Noble, even indie bookstores. It has to go through Ingram Wholesale, which luckily Draft to Digital does by default. The way that most bookstores are going to be able to access your book. So if you're self-publishing, that's just something to note. And there we have it. This was a bit of a different take on some of the differences, the pros and cons. what you need to do in order to be successful in both self-publishing and traditional publishing. Let me know what you thought. If you learned something, if this informed your opinion, if this swayed you one way or the other, if you have experience with either and you'd like to chime in, please let me know. Obviously, I have much more experience with self-publishing, but I have dipped my toe in the traditional publishing pool, so I do feel qualified to talk about this, as well as the wonderful input of my friend Alex Ritney, who you should all check out. They are amazing. Their experience with the traditional publishing industry is where a lot of my knowledge comes from. So thank you, Alex, for your help with this research. Give me a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I make new ones every single Friday about writing tips, the publishing world, books. If you also have a topic that you would like me to cover, please comment below. I'm always looking for suggestions of things you would like to hear about. On Instagram and TikTok, you can get the night auction now. It's available everywhere. And yeah, I will see you next week. Goodbye.